Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ankur Gupta. I'm General Manager at Metascale. So today we're going to talk about big data business wins. As part of this presentation, I wanted to take you through one of the use cases that we've implemented at one of our retail clients. So before I start, I'm curious, let's get the audience a little bit, let's get to know you guys a little bit better. How many of you are from an enterprise? Quite a few. How many of you have implemented Hadoop or have played with Hadoop quite a bit or have, before we go into real times? And how many of you have done Hadoop before from enterprise? Okay, you guys can leave. Just kidding. So anybody who has done real-time analytics or real-time implementations thus far? Okay, quite a few. All right, good. So we'll take you through our specific case, and our case is a little bit more specific because the organization we work with was a spin-off from a larger organization. So there were firewall issues and whatnot. But then I'd like to take you through the whole architecture and what we did about in this particular use case. But obviously, one thing is feel free to raise your hand and ask a question in between. We are exhibiting at booth G15. So if in any case, if I'm unable to answer a question or whatever, or if we run out of time, meet me there, meet me after the presentation. Happy to answer any question that we may unable to address here. So Metascale, quick introduction to our company. We are actually born out of Sears Holdings Corporation. So Sears, as you know, is a large retailer, over 2,500 stores, fourth largest retailer in the US, Fortune 100 companies, lot of data. We started on our big data journey at Sears about 5 years ago. So I don't know if you guys were here at Hadoop Summit 2 years ago. We did a keynote here 2 years ago. Last year we had a couple of presentations, and this year now we're talking more about use cases that we at Metascale have implemented outside Sears. So we spun off Metascale outside Sears because we realized that there are lots and lots of vendors out there. There are very few with real enterprise experience. What happens, it's very easy to kick off a 5 or 10 node cluster and do a POC or two. But I guarantee you, when you do an enterprise implementation, the kind of problems you face, there are none like what you face in a POC. So we realize there is a need for a vendor or a need for a partner to provide insight into what happens when you actually do implementation in a large enterprise. What kind of challenges do you face? And the challenges are not just technical challenges. The challenges could be related to governance, challenges related to how different organizations work together. So you see a lot of time the decision makers could be businesses. So marketing guys want really good insight into where he or she is spending marketing dollars, or get insights on social media and tells IT to do the job, but IT is already too busy doing other things, may not have time or even resources to do Hadoop and big data. So how do you get governance between different kind of business units? How do you make decisions? How do you set access and whatnot? And that's where Metascale, as a company of a large enterprise, play a key role with our partners. So as part of this presentation, we would go through what kind of tools we would use for point of sale, migrate data from point of sale to from different legacy systems to Hadoop. Established enterprise data hub with Hadoop. You've heard about it enough by now. It's no more a new concept. When we talked about last year, there was a lot more interest. The room was filled with people. And then what kind of reference architecture for real-time inventory tracking? All right, Wikibon, you heard Jeff this morning from Wikibon. He actually conducted a survey some time back. I don't think it's recent anymore, that enterprise practitioners believe the potential of big data is significant. Obviously, we have over 3,000 people here, several hundred organizations that are represented. So clearly, there is a lot of interest in big data and Hadoop. But we also found that 46% of big data practitioners reported that they've only realized partial value. And in fact, 2% reported that their implementation of big data or their investment completely failed. What were the reasons for that? So there were 3 main reasons that Wikibon laid out. The one was lack of skilled big data practitioners. That still continues to be a big reason. It's a new technology. Your existing DBAs, your existing infrastructure team may not be able to help you as much as you think. They will learn the technology, they will learn the nuances over the time, but immediately you may want to find some skilled resources who have done it for at least a couple of hours. Obviously, the technology is not 20 years old now, so you can rarely find people who have more than 10 years of experience. Then the second point, raw and relatively immature technology. I believe Arun Murthy and Doug Cutting will both beat me up on this. This was a little older survey, so I don't think number 2 is applicable as much. The technology is definitely more mature than what it was when the survey was done. And I think a lot of a lot of concerns related to security, related to uptime and whatnot are taken care of. The third one that we find most fascinating, a lot of organizations fail here, is lack of comparing use case. A lot of you would probably, and I guess a few of you may have been sent by your senior management and said, go check out what Hadoop is. And then some of you who are in IT may have been asked to just do a Hadoop cluster. And what happens is we have seen with many of our partners, they hear about Hadoop, they hear about big data, and they see a report from Gartner, Forrester, or any other big influencer, and they go and tell their IT team, go do it. But nobody, and a lot of those organizations do not really take time to take a step back, identify what the use cases they're trying to solve, what kind of success criteria they would want to achieve before jumping into the implementation. And that's one of the big reasons why organizations fail in their implementation of big data and use cases. Now, this is kind of a slide that covers, again, I think just reiterates the fact that my previous slide said that Hadoop ecosystem gives business the ability to create value from its data by processing and storing vast amount of data. This is number of use cases. I mean, I continue to get questions from a lot of our customers and companies that are in early stage of big data. What kind of use case would be applicable to them? Use case could be as simple as storing data. I mean, we have talked to organizations that are looking to store their Outlook PST files because they used to be on tapes. They used to lose those tapes, and it was very expensive. Now they're doing it on Hadoop. So could be as rudimentary as that to as advanced as whatever you can think of. Like this morning, somebody was talking about defining new product, machine learning, and whatnot. So a vast variety of use cases. Hadoop enables faster processing of larger data sets. Again, the third piece is Storm, Kafka, and Cassandra provide the technology for real-time analytics. Now, these three technologies, they were specific to our use case. This is what we use when and the use case I'm going to talk about today is actually not new. It was about a year ago when we implemented it. So since then, there are a lot many NoSQL databases. You now have HBase that has gone a long way. You could use MongoDB and whatnot. But we use Cassandra in our case, which is why we'll talk about it. Keys for achieving big data success. Again, so we are a company that was born out of a large enterprise. So we like to give out a few tips about, especially folks who are from other enterprises, on what would be important to be successful in your big data implementation. It's important that you bring business, IT and businesses together. Number of times you have seen that when IT is told to do something in a silo and business wants the results and they don't talk to each other, guess what happens? You become a part of that 46% results survey set where you get some results but partial results. Define realistic success criteria. Another big problem. If you do not, Hadoop can solve a lot of problems. It may not be able to solve all the problems you are thinking. So you need to be realistic about what it can, and also important to learn about what it cannot do for you. So make sure you're using Hadoop for what it can do and use it effectively for those problems. And again, I think the third point pretty much reiterates the same thing. What are you really trying to accomplish? How will Hadoop fit into your environment? So a number of questions you need to answer before you even jump into your big production implementation. But again, start with a small POC, which is what we recommend to all our potential clients. Do not jump into big implementation or big investments. Find a few use cases. There are different architectures that are out there, different implementations are out there. You need to define what is your success criteria, what are you trying to achieve. It could be as simple as, as I said, putting your Outlook PST file in Hadoop and saving money on storage. And God knows, you may be doing some analysis on those Outlook PST file tomorrow. Number of companies, there are another company we're talking to, they're looking to put all of their log files that they used to throw after, I think it was about a year, into Hadoop for over 10 years now. So they want to put all of their data from log file data into Hadoop and just keep it for at least 10 years. They used to throw it after 1 year before. So there could be very rudimentary use cases. So it's important that you find those and then slowly build on those use cases, because the best part of Hadoop is it's very scalable. Right? You don't need to build your 100 terabyte cluster today. You can start with 10, 20, 50, and then slowly grow from there. All right, so we come to the meat of our presentation, real-time inventory management. Any question thus far? All right, good. So either you guys are not listening or I'm doing a very good job. Real-time analytics with Cassandra. So here's an interesting scenario. Here's what happened with us. This is a company spun off from another large retailer. And what happened was, in order to become a digital company, they wanted to combine all sources of shopping. So you could shop online, you could shop in store, and whatnot. Now, you could shop in-store online. So you can order online and pick up in-store, and it's a very common behavior these days. You can do it pretty much in all retailers. But what happens there, it's a great business idea, but underlying this, your technology should be able to support it. So your inventory data between online and in-store should be shared somehow, right? So let's take a very specific case. For this particular retailer, the interesting part was they are also a specialized retailer. So what you get in one store is all you get in that store. You don't get the same item in another store. But you're allowing people to buy online the same item in that store. So what happens is you go to a certain zip code, you like that particular item, and you say, I want to buy it. Chances are, and when you're spreading it over hundreds and thousands of stores, that someone else might be buying that same particular item online. So here's the interesting piece. You buy that item, you check out, you're gone, and within that time frame, until that item is purchased, and let's say there is only that one item in that one store, until that item is purchased, the item will still show available online. So someone might be buying it online at the same time. But between the time that the person online put it in the cart, put the credit card information, checked out, if someone else had purchased it in that store, that item shows as gone, right? So online, you should immediately be able to show unavailable. So the person who's buying it online says, okay, somebody bought it, I'm out of luck, I'll buy something else. But before this, the problem was, here was the problem. The POS data was stored in different formats in different legacy system. So I'll come back to my previous point in a minute, but I want to show you what was happening before. So there was no real-time capability. There was a batch job sent every day. So if you are online, you will actually buy that item. It's just that you will not have it. Just bad customer experience, right? And then you will call customer service, number of calls will grow. So think of this very small scenario and grow it over a number of hundreds of stores, thousands of stores. And then, chances are when you're a specialized retailer, it may happen again and again. And even if you're not a specialized retailer, for us, it's very much possible, the scenario, where you want to have that, and you also want to keep a tab on your inventory, especially if it is Christmas time or another festival time where you want to be able to order items in advance as it happens in the retailer's case. So you want to manage your logistics also well. So this was the case before. POS data was stored in Teradata, and inventory batch file was sent once a day. So no real time at that time, right? Here's what we did with them. So we actually, first thing we did was created a single version of truth for that client. So we moved all of the Teradata data to Hadoop, and all of you have heard about Enterprise Data Hub by now, pretty much. So that's what we created for this client. We moved data from Teradata to Hadoop, so there was a single source of truth for all the data for that client, right? Same large inventory file that was shared across different division in that store. So whether you're selling an appliance or clothing or whatnot, you are dealing with one large inventory file and not having ETL problems within the business unit or within the IT. The second phase 2 was actually implementing real time. So the previous phase didn't obviously give us real time. It gave us ability to use Hadoop, so we are not spending a lot of money on expensive Teradata boxes, but also we were able to create one version of truth. And oops, I'm going back. Second one was actually implementing the real-time capabilities. Now, can anyone tell me if there is something wrong with this slide? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Yeah, so this slide is actually applicable to our specific scenario. You don't need Kafka here necessarily. You actually don't even need Storm or Kafka. You could use shell script to pull data directly from MQ and put it in Cassandra. So you could obviously define your shell script in a way that it's real-time pulling messaging and putting in Cassandra. So at that time, we used Cassandra because about a year ago, and we were talking to somebody yesterday that why Cassandra, during our fireside chat, why Cassandra, why not MongoDB or HBase or such. And at that time, Cassandra was the best solution for us, really. HBase has come a long way now, and I think we're not promoting one NoSQL database versus another, but we continue to test all of them, and depending on which one suits better for our client's need, we implement the same. But I guess if we were making that decision today, we could use Cassandra or HBase or, I guess, MongoDB. So Cassandra was used for our specific case at that time. And this was a solution end-to-end. Again, you can take out Kafka from this. So moving data from Teradata to Hadoop, and then using Cassandra to build that real-time capability. So every time now, if an item is bought at your POS, your inventory team can be notified in real time. It's a much easier, much economical option now than building large scripts using IT and whatnot. Using Hadoop, you can actually make it happen in a very economical manner, in a very simple manner. So now your inventory team can have a better access to, better understanding of what kind of items are sold in what stores, and how to order those items well in advance. So again, if there is a large event like Christmas or whatnot, when you're expecting to sell a lot of items, you can make those decisions well in advance now, depending and whether to keep them reserved for online or in store and whatnot. The results were obviously before the inventory batch file was once a day. Now after Cassandra, the inventory decision, the information for inventory team the decision making was in milliseconds. You can pretty much get answers in real time. Yes, sir. There we go. Mm-hmm. You could use IBM MQ, yeah. I'm saying Kafka is not applicable. That's why I made that specific point. And I'll take you through why we use Kafka. If you don't have firewall issues, you don't need to use Kafka. You could use the MQ series to pull data directly from POS and put it in Cassandra. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, so actually what we are doing here, one thing I'm glad you asked this question. One thing, we are actually doing BI on top of Cassandra first. So you see Cassandra client BI for a front end. You could use any BI tool, Pentaho. I think this client was used Pentaho, but you could use MicroStrategy, Pentaho, or number of vendors that are out there. And then from there, you are actually putting data into Hadoop, Cassandra. So all the storage for making Hadoop as an enterprise data hub happens through Cassandra. And actually, we have an architecture there outside at our booth G15 that I can take you through to provide more details. Yeah? Okay. Faster decision-making, value for organization, increase sales by improving item availability. Obviously, now your customers who are buying items online do not have to run into surprises. They know exactly if an item is not available, they will get a notification. And if you obviously combine the messaging correctly on your online site, that the item is no more available because someone bought it in store. There's a question in the back. Oh my God. Yep. Yeah, so if in the real time, that's what I'm saying, if you implement from here on, if you combine okay, you will know in real time that inventory team will get a message in real time that the item is no more available. Now, if you do further integration with your online system here, that if an item is, say, item value is null or zero, whatever, then the message is displayed before you check out, in your checkout cart, essentially.
So are you also taking account what items are in shopping cart?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, so that's a whole different architecture of how do you implement your, you use Hadoop on top of the e-commerce AWS or whatnot you may be using, right? Okay. So there were some aha moments from that too. So we over the period now that's been about a year that we've implemented it, cost savings from reduced truckload time, right? So you're not rushing items at the last minute. Now that you can predict your inventory, or you could know in real time how items are sell, you can order them in advance, right? And you know when you're going to run low on a certain items, you can order them beforehand versus waiting until it is all finished. And then cost saving from reduced customer service calls. That was a fun one too. Go ahead.
Do you have any way of quantifying those cost savings?
I'll have to make up some numbers right now. No, I don't remember any right now. Not for these two. Not for these two. The time is not spent enough that I can say specifically how was the time saved on a number of trucks or the space that was saved. But those were the aha moments that were not thought out, honestly, before the project was going on. It was really about, can we learn when an item is sold in real time?
So do you know any automated system for
I'm sorry.
I wonder, do you have any automated, like machine learning, kind of predictive analyze, or it's just like, ad hoc?
For this case?
Yeah, for this case.
Yeah, no, not for this case. This was the architecture. We didn't put any machine learning. As I said, we use BI tool on top of Cassandra. to obviously do whatever slicing and dicing of the data, but no machine learning on this.
So there's a human like a data scientist or data operator.
It depends on what you want. I mean, you have the data right now, and depending on the complexity of what you're trying to accomplish, I mean, the visualization tool will give you the information that you're looking for on the underlying data that you have. For this case, it's all POS data. It's not really super complicated. You're not looking at machine data or log files. Generally, it is like number of items sold in a certain stores and stuff like that. That's easy to get. Okay, additional components. So a couple of other things. So Hadoop is an enterprise data hub. I guess by now, all of you have heard about it enough, right? Single source of truth. So what we did was, on the left-hand side, if you see data sources, actually right on the rightmost side here, data sources could be structured, unstructured data, social media data. You pull it all in, put it all in Hadoop. And how many of you are familiar with the Gold layer, Smith layer, and all that? Anyone? Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about that though. So from there, we would be happy to show you the whole architecture actually if you want to come by our booth or talk to me after the presentation. But we kept all the data in what we call as Gold layer, single source of truth, most granular form. For this client, actually in the retail world, because it was a spin-off, there was a lot more complexities than what you would face in a normal enterprise, right? So the data was coming from disparate sources. So you need to sometimes, instead of normalizing, denormalize the data and keep it in the most granular form, in the Gold layer. So all of your data is at one place. Everybody can access, not everybody can access it, but everybody has access to it. So just one single source of truth in an enterprise as your enterprise data hub. And on top of that data, once you keep it in the Gold layer, then there is a work layer where every time you need the data, you pull it out of there, and then you put BI on top of it, essentially. You could use a tool of your choice. As I said, there are a lot of, over the period since we have done it, you don't really, there are even open source plugins, BI, I think it's BERT plugins and whatnot that you could even use to see visualization on top of this data. You don't need expensive analytics tool anymore. The other thing is firewall issues. So this is now, I come back to my previous point, why we use Kafka and Storm. So what happens is in some cases, you may have firewalls. So you may have, this company was spun out of another company. So obviously, both public companies, they cannot share their data, but they were part of a same data center, right? So this company's data was firewalled from the parent company. And we had major firewall issues there. You couldn't just pull data out of POS and send it, put it in Cassandra, and from there to Hadoop, because Hadoop was actually within the firewall domain of the parent company. So sending message back and forth across firewall was a major issue for us. And this is what we did here. So somebody asked why we were missing Storm. Here is your Storm. You actually don't need Storm here again. But we needed in our case because the Storm has different topology here. So this was a 3-node cluster. One node was actually sending, pulling data from POS, sending it to Kafka. The Kafka is just a queuing mechanism here before sending it to Cassandra. But the other topology was also sending data for the parent company directly to Cassandra. So for this specific case, we use both Storm and Kafka to do the complete implementation, which is why I was showing Kafka before, but you don't really need Kafka for that particular case. So this was the ultimate. This was the architecture for our specific case of how we implemented real time for this client. All right, so over data-driven decision making. Now, once this was in place, somebody asked about machine learning. Now you could, so there's another thing we are doing for this client. We are now implementing weather reports on top of it. So that's where you can actually see weather data in real time. So you can implement weather API. That implementation is not done yet. So I couldn't show you in slides on that, but now you can actually see weather API and make decisions based off of it. So now you are getting access to your real-time inventory, but you can also see, depending on how weather is going to be in a certain location, well, can you change pricing? Can you change your, so if your item is low availability, but more in demand, you can probably increase pricing. So let's say there's a snowblower in a cold area like Chicago, and 2 Saturdays from now, it's going to be super windy and minus 20 degrees, and you only have 2 of those snowblowers left, you can probably charge some premium for that. So this is more of what we are doing. The other is new ways to use social geosensor data. So ideally now, I come back to my previous point. Once you have implemented Hadoop, we didn't start with everything at once. We had one specific use case in mind, and we went ahead with that. But now that we have implemented Hadoop and a NoSQL database like Cassandra, we can do a lot more. So one demonstration we are showing at our booth here is real-time analytics using MongoDB. So you can actually go our booth, you can put the keyword you want, it takes data from Twitter and shows you in real time how people are feeling or what are the sentiments about whether that's your brand or product or whatnot. So similarly, now that you have Hadoop implemented, you can do weather plugin top of that, you can implement data from your social media, and you can do so much more that you were not able to do before. Finally, key takeaways, big data business wins. So those guys who are from enterprise, if you're not thinking about Hadoop or other big data technologies, actually you're here because you're thinking about it, but if you're not looking to implement it in the next few years, it's probably a good time that you start doing some POCs, start doing some experiments in your organization. Because as a company that was born out of a large enterprise, we know that these tools are here. These are here to stay. These are here to provide value that was not possible before. Not that Hadoop and big data tools are doing something new, but they're doing what was not possible cost effectively. Right? I think someone mentioned this morning that an extra terabyte on Teradata or SAP HANA could be hundreds and thousands of dollars. On Hadoop, it's like $5,000. So it's the cost-effective piece of it. It's the data latency piece of it. It's the whole unstructured data, analytics 2 and 3 that we heard this morning. That's all coming together, which is possible. So on Hadoop, you can archive data, but analyze it at the same time. And if you think about it, it's a very powerful concept. Right? Earlier, you could just put your data on tape, and when you needed it, you'll take the tape out and then put some BI on top of it and use mainframe or whatever to analyze it. Wasn't one quick, and two wasn't cost effective. But using Hadoop and other big data technologies, you could actually do it now. You must have a clear strategy and long-term plan. That's really the key. Don't jump into it because others are doing it or because you heard something in a conference or whatnot. We always recommend at Metascale that you find some POCs, find some use cases, but also have a long-term vision, long-term plan. Most importantly, how will the governance take place in your organization? Who will have access to what layer of data? You can build that goal layer, Smith layer, work layer, and all that, but who will control what? Right? Business generally do not care about underlying infrastructure. They would want the results that they're looking for. So they may have access to all the BI tools, they may have access to the reports that they want, but within the IT, who will make sure that the data is one protected and data is clean. So you have now that you've built that single source of truth, it remains as such, and it's not get messed up by multiple version of ETLs and whatnot, those problems that you started with originally. Leverage the right partnership to achieve your goals. A lot of organizations come to us and they say we can do it in-house. And we encourage, again, at Sears, at our parent company, we took some professional help the first year, but now we built our center of excellence. We have over 250 resources that are well-versed in Hadoop that actually we also use at Metascale. But we recommend that you could start on your own if you have the luxury of time. If you're looking to do next 6 months, a year, or whatnot, if you have luxury of time to have people learn and then be ready for an enterprise implementation, certainly. Otherwise, find a strategic partner, at least for short term. And then once you have implemented the technology, once you have seen a few use cases, when the organization is getting used to of this new infrastructure and ecosystem, that's when probably you want to take it all in-house. In fact, we recommend you take it all in-house. So now that you have the infrastructure in place, you can do so much more, even more cost effectively. With that, I think I'm done. Any questions?
What's the tool that you're using for machine learning?
Mahout. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Given where things are at now, I don't know how long ago you built this. Redo anything? Is there anything you change?
It was very simple architecture. We didn't have to do a whole lot. I mean, if we were to do now, because of firewall issue, we needed to, we actually initially put I think it was a Hadoop cluster. We initially put a Cassandra cluster for that client, but Cassandra, we had already implemented it. I don't know if we'll probably look at maybe HBase or some other databases. But we didn't really need to change anything for this implementation. Now that we are doing weather APIs and whatnot, maybe we'll make some changes, but it's not done yet, so I cannot say for sure. We have both Storm and Kafka now. We had to do that, as I said before, because Storm was a 3-node cluster, and depending on the topology, the Storm is not just sending messages to Kafka. This company is still sharing data with the parent company, so Storm is doing a lot more than just sending messages to Kafka. Any other question? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and I invite you to our booth at G15 if you want to see some real-time use cases. Thanks, guys.